I'm going to be reading a children's story called Honey Bear that was re-illustrated by my grandmother, Linda Ahlstrom. It was written by Dixie Wilson, and the original illustrations were by Imaginal Wright Barney. And see, it is signed by my grandma, Linda Ahlstrom. Honey Bear. Once upon a summer, in the hills by the river, was a deep green forest where the wild things grew. There were caves as dark as midnight, there were tangled trees and thickets, and 1,000 little places where the sky looked through. Now way inside the forest, where the path was lost in nothing, and the moss was soft as velvet, dusky, rusky as could be, where the day was full of shadows, and the night was full of darkness, and nobody ever found it, was a big old hollow tree. There were wildcats in the forest. There were silky little foxes. There were owls and there were possums peeking out from everywhere. But the wildest thing of any, in the dusky, rusky forest, with the hollow tree to live in, was a big black bear. Every day he went a prowlin' and a growlin' through the forest. Every day he went a huntin' for something good to eat, with his berry nose a smellin', and his berry paws a pokin', and his berry eyes a lookin' for a taste of something sweet. He would growl and he would grumble. He would snuffle at the flowers. He was big and black and boogie, and the neighborhood children said, if they ever went a-playin' in the dusky, rusky forest, and they found his big old bear tracks, they'd go scootin' home instead. The trees that made the forest were so strong and tall and sturdy that woodsmen came with axes every single summer day and hunted for the places where the tallest trees were standing, to chop and chop and chop them down and carry them away. Now close beside the forest was a teeny greeny cabin, the cutest little cabin that a body ever had. And in the little cabin lived the nicest little family, a Pinky Winky baby and her mommy and her dad. The cabin was so cozy with its little doors and windows, a little chimney on it like a funny little hat, a little flower garden for the bees who wanted honey, and whoever ever saw a sweeter little house than that. So Daddy was a woodsman. He was tall and strong and happy. With his shining axe he went into the forest every day, while Mommy stayed at home to keep the cabin nice and tidy and to give the Pinky baby little baby games to play. Of course now every mommy thinks her baby is the sweetest, and this mommy, like the others, thought her baby was sweetest too. She cuddled it and rocked it, and she kissed its baby dimples, and she loved each deary queery little thing it used to do. It was such a rosy baby, such a cozy, rosy baby, with a sunny thread a-shining in its downy, browny curls. The mommy and the daddy were so proud of it that really you'd have thought it was the very prize of all the baby girls. Every day they sat together in the little cabin doorway, with their peekaboo and pat-a-cake a-playin' in the sun, and the daddy used to toss the baby way up on his shoulder, till the dusky, rusky forest even seemed to hear their fun. Now Daddy used to think that of everything the baby needed. So once he carried branches from the forest dark and deep, and with his nails and hammer made a cozy little cradle to rock the Pinky baby when she had to go to sleep. One afternoon, when everything was quiet in the forest, the bear came prowling, growling from his big old hollow tree. And started out to paw around to get some food for Sunday, to see what he could find to eat and eat what he could see. The path was soft as velvet, and nobody heard him coming. He sniffed and he snuffed along until he saw, what do you think? Our teeny greeny cabin with the little doors and windows, the funny little chimney, and the garden fresh and pink. He saw the little curtains and the little open windows. He prowled across the yard, and with his hairy berry paw, he poked a place to peek, and there his berry eyes a-lookin' found the sweetest little morsel any old bear ever saw. Of course it was the baby, sleeping in her little cradle. The bear reached in the window, but exactly there and then, who came along but Daddy with his trusty rifle, and the old bear stopped for nothing till he found the woods again. But though he went a-running, he looked back to see the cabin, counted every turn and corner so he never would forget. "That's a very pretty baby," said the bear. "A pretty baby. I'll go home today, but maybe I will have that baby yet." The daddy watched him going, saw him sniff and snuff and grumble, saw him hiding in the forest, heard him growling, prowling through, and said he, "I guess my cabin better have a fence around it. If that old bear got my baby, me oh my, what would we do?" So Daddy made a fence with thorny wire on the edges. He made a gate and made a lock to shut it safe and tight. So when he left Mommy and the little Pinky baby, he'd know they would be safe till he came home again at night. And so through all the summer in the teeny greeny cabin, Mommy's Pinky Winky little baby grew and grew and grew. And out in Mommy's garden in the rain and in the sunshine, the flowers like the baby were a-growin', growin' too. It was such a pretty garden with its ferns and with its flowers. There were poppies, pinks, and pansies, well, most everything that grows. And whenever days were sunny, all the bees came making honey to hide away for winter in a place where no one knows. Well, once when Daddy was a long way in the forest, it happened Mrs. Mommy had a very busy day. So she tucked her precious baby safe and sound inside the cradle and put her in the garden by her little self to play. Now Mommy was so busy she made bread and pies and cookies, and an hour went by before she looked out on the lawn. Then the gate was standing open, and the path was full of bear tracks, and the little bed was empty, and the baby girl was gone. I don't believe a mommy ever was so frightened. Just think of it, the dusky, rusky forest all around, and nothing left to tell about the Pinky Winky baby, but a lot of prowling bear tracks tramping all across the ground. How Mommy cried for Daddy with her heart a pitter-patter. She caught his trusty rifle up and ran into the wood, breaking through the trees and bushes, climbing over rocks and branches, calling all the while for Daddy just as loudly as she could. At last she found the woodsmen, and she told them what had happened. In a second they were ready, and they scattered everywhere for a search of every corner in the dusky, rusky forest where a baby could be hiding with an old black bear. Mommy's eyes were full of crying, and the Daddy's heart was beating, but they started out together just as bravely as they could. For of course they knew that somewhere in a cave or tree or thicket Mr. Bear had hid their baby in the dusky rusky wood. The paths led in and out again, so even Mrs. Mommy didn't know which way to follow. But at last what should she see but the very same old bear tracks she had but the very same old tracks that she had found there in the garden. From the very same old bear that came from out the hollow tree. Through the dusky rusky forest, then the mommy and the daddy followed every single footprint in the big old berry followed every single footprint of the big old berry paw, till at last where it was thickest in the deepest darkest hollow, Daddy held his breath and Mommy cried out loud at what she saw. Now the day before, the big old bear had found a treasure hidden in the center of an empty log among the forest trees. He had poked his berry paw as only bears would think of doing, and had found a load of honey from a hive of honeybees. Then the big old bear remembered how one day, inside a cabin, he had seen a little baby like a pinky winky rose, and he said all to himself, "I think I'll take this load of honey and go home and have a party." And so what do you suppose? He had gone and found the baby in the teeny greeny garden, and had made an invitation in his very Sunday best, and had taken her to help him have his funny honey party, eating half of it himself and giving baby all the rest. There the bear and there the baby, in the dusky rusky forest, sat together in the shadow of the old bear's hollow tree, with their faces full of honey and their fingers full of honey, and the two of them as sticky and as happy as could be. Well, Mommy grabbed her baby and she kissed its face all over till her face was full of honey, and the bear ate more and more. And the daddy kissed the mommy till they all were full of honey, and the dusky rusky forest never saw such fun before. Then Mommy took the baby with its face all full of honey, and they followed Daddy home again, and they were all so glad that Mommy had hugged the bear, and you may guess that baby had the most attention that a baby ever had. And forever, ever after, Mommy called the baby Honey. And the story traveled round the world as stories somehow can, till everybody everywhere called all their babies Honey. So when anybody calls you that, you'll know how it began. There's a little note at the end of the story, and it says, it is our ideal that books should make children happy and build character unconsciously, and should contain nothing to cause fright, suggest fear, glorify mischief, excuse malice, or condone cruelty. And that is the end of the Honey Bear story. I hope you enjoyed it.